do their issues, like later you're getting ready to go do your own big map. We take the city of Kearney, the city limits, and we try and take and see what's already there, that we know that we can't move stuff that's already there. Then you try and district it out into where you'd like your commercial, where more of your residential would be, where you'd want your office spaces. Schools, we've learned to kind of pop up where they want to be. And then from that point, we take it and we would go into to zoning conditions. So we can go from a residential zoning, we can go to a multifamily zoning, and then we can go to a heavy multifamily. So if I zone your ground as single family, you can only build single family houses. If I zone your property as a multifamily, you can probably only build duplexes and fourplexes. If we go into a heavy apartment-like setting, you can only put apartments there. What you're trying to do with that is, like on your things you've identified, the pollution, the air pollution. Something else we have now, we've got noise pollution now. So that's one of the big reasons people don't want a house close to a factory, is because they don't want to hear somebody grinding metal all night. That's another reason you try and get things kind of scattered out to where you have light uses in an area.
Your Kearney map's up there. I can travel
Okay.
anywhere you need to go.
Okay, well in Kearney we've got interstate. That's the main lifeline for Kearney. That's why Kearney has grown the way it has. This was the older part of Kearney, so most of this was already done years ago. It kind of grew as needs arose. We also have a railroad track in Kearney that was very important because we had a well here. So when trains first started traveling, Kearney is one of the places they had to stop to get water. So that was a very important part to Kearney's growth. Once we got the downtown part started growing, then you started seeing the houses growing up around the outside, and we keep moving further and further out. We've got a lot of growth south of 92, and on this side of the interstate, we're just now starting to see even more growth on this side. The city did a planning. They did this as an industrial park. The city actually had an economic development committee that they actually tried paying for some of the ground to get this started, because one of the things that you get with industrial, you get a tax base, but for a school you don't usually get a lot of kids. Usually if they're going to work here, they're going to live here, so you get more taxes per student. This is all considered industrial park. This back up here would be residential. The other thing Kearney has is it keeps growing. We've added to the square miles of Kearney in the last 5 years. We've added quite a bit. We went way south to basically protect ourselves from, say, a Liberty coming up. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the town of Gladstone. But Gladstone got surrounded by Kansas City. Gladstone can't grow anymore. Well, Kearney didn't want to get that way. So we have annexed all the way down to like 132nd Street. No, 128th Street. But this is where they're talking about the new interchange might come in. This is 19th Street. We're actually paying for study. The other thing is the city, we can tell people what we hope to do, but our two main roads through here is 33 Highway and 92 Highway, and those are state roads. We can't tell the state what they're going to do with them. The state pretty much tells us what they're going to do with them. But if we do an interchange here, you can see that opens up, even more ground to ease your development. We actually paved and put a sewer line, I think in 2004, on the other side of the interstate. because the city felt like that was hindering anybody from developing any of this area. If we didn't get that sewer line underneath here, we felt like that wouldn't grow anytime soon. So we went ahead and paid. We're still paying for the sewer line that's basically just stubbed under here. So if anybody decides to develop any of this ground, they can hook up to it right there. This area would be the area where the shops at Kearney's getting ready to come into. We annexed 2 years ago. We annexed all the way over and actually annexed the airport. There again, the airport's not something that's growing and doing a lot right now, but in the future, if that would become a major hub, we actually have the ground around it pretty well surrounded, so that if industrial would start coming up to support the airport, we would have that in the city of Kearney. But in order to do this, you have to annex a lot of open ground to get to that point. But we felt like we had enough room to grow out that way to protect kind of our city. We knew Excelsior was heading that way. And anytime you can get something like an airport and not cost you a lot of money to get it into your city limit, that's usually a good thing.
So when you're talking about the annexation of these locations to try and help our city, you're just talking about preparing your city limits for
That's right.
the planning that's going on.
Yep.
Okay.
So we put it in the city limits, and then after that, then we try and sit down and decide. I mean, obviously, nobody wants to live right around an airport, so that's all going to be, zoned industrial type zone.
Okay.
But we don't have any sewer out there right now, so.
Possibly coming, right?
That's right. That's something else that we have to look at, and we have looked at taking and putting the sewer line back to our sewer plant.
Okay. And where's the sewer plant located? You'll
Sewer
have to
plant
figure it out.
is, let's see here. Sewer plant is right down in.
The sewage water treatment plant?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it.
Down by Fishing River, right behind.
Yeah, I know it. It's right where that bridge is, right
Yep.
there.
And
Fishing River.
one major change that we have from sewer treatment today to when we're talking about on our maps, sewer treatment went from out the window into the street to into the canal, into the river, into the ocean. Alright, so the river gets to a point where nobody can drink out of it. You can't get your water from the river anymore. You have to do something about it. What we've started doing is treating the water before we put it back into the river.
And the EPA tells us what we have to do. We just had to put up about a $300,000 barn that has special lights in it. So any water we release goes through these lights that kills a certain type of algae. And last night at the Alderman meeting, we did a contract with Larkin, and they're supposed to be getting ready to add 2 new pods onto our sewer system, so we'll have enough room to grow. We've got enough room for probably about 7 years. That should take us out to another 15 or 20 years. That's what they're telling us.
Awesome. Any questions for Mr. Couchman right now? Okay, so
All of our city meetings are open. You're more than welcome to come to the Board of Alderman meeting. If you get really interested in planning and zoning, you can go to planning and zoning meetings. If you go to the City of Kearney website, all the meetings are listed there, and they're all open. They can't refuse you because it's a state law. You have to be able to come in there. It's under the Sunshine Law. I don't know if you ever see that in papers, but developing a city, a subdivision, anything is more of an art than it is a science. I mean, I can't tell you what the best use for your ground and stuff. You have different visions than I do and stuff, and that's why as a city it's hard to come together and try and keep everybody happy. Me as a developer, my father's developed some land. While the city likes these nice square streets, people in subdivisions necessarily don't like living in a nice square street. They want the odd lots, and they want a cul-de-sac. And from a city standpoint, that cul-de-sac just stops traffic. Traffic has to come back out. City, we do everything be lined out square straight streets, you can get on a street and go all the way from one end of the city to the other. But developers and homeowners, we don't usually like it that way.
Alright, so what I'm hearing from you, when you guys break into groups, these are the things that you need to keep in mind. Alright, the first thing that they need to delineate would be their city limits. How far out are they gonna let people do what they're gonna do? Then they're looking at zoning, possibly the industrial section, thinking about noise pollution and sewers. Alright, followed by where are you gonna put your single families, so your modest houses, where are you gonna put your heavy or multifamily, your tenements. Alright, and then think about how you can increase taxes. So how are you going to bring business to your town? It sounds like a well was a way that we brought business to Kearney. That's what brought the train here. Right. And then I-35 brings people into the city of Kansas City to work and then back out to their homes, which is not in the middle of this noise pollution. And then making sure that we're having sewers. So how are we going to dispose of our waste? And finally, are there any state or federal regulations that you need to deal with? In our town, on your maps here and on the town of Kearney, we have a north-south highway, which is 33 and 35, I guess. And then we have an east-west highway that we really can't do a whole lot with. Is that correct?
That's right. The state of Missouri is getting ready to put in a roundabout right here. Getting ready to put in a roundabout right here. I've had people ask me, why do you want a roundabout? It's like, well, I mean, whether I think they're good or bad, I didn't have a say in it. Even being in the city, the state of Missouri says, you know what, we're putting a roundabout there. So
Roundabouts keep traffic flowing.
Yeah, you don't have to. You don't
Oh,
have
that
lights.
is-
You don't have lights. You don't have to use power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
the
depends
state,
on how heavy
the state of Missouri, we asked her about what roundabouts. We said, you know, why has it become so popular? She said one of the biggest things is because she said drivers, they're talking on their cell phones. She said they only have to look one way, and she says that's one of the reasons why it's safer. If you pull out and you have to look both ways and try it on a cell phone, she says that's harder for somebody to concentrate on two things in their cell phone than if they just have to look and make sure a car's not coming one way.
But aren't people not supposed to be talking on their cell phone and driving anyway?
That is what the lady in the state of Missouri told me, yes.
Think about how that's changing society,
Yeah,
though,
Tiffany
guys.
Springs.
I mean, this is a perfect example. The invention of the cell phone and everybody using it all the time is changing how we plan our streets. Whether you're supposed to be talking about them or not, it's making a change to our society, which is kind of cool, really. So here's what we'll do. We got roughly 10 minutes or so. I have paper over here. I got in a little bit of a hurry. I'm sorry. Please, let's do this now before we run out of time when we move. Please give Mr. Couchman a thank you. A little bit of hand clap. And then